I'm more excited than usual today. I hope this is going to be a good video. I think it will be. I have with me my good friend Wolfgang. A lot of you write me and wonder, well, who do you go hunting with, and do you know other gun collectors? Of course I do, but it's not so easy setting it up so that you can film with the people that you know. Anyway, Wolfgang has immense experience with guns, gun collecting, and hunting. And we got together today actually because of a rifle. He took delivery of this amazing Heim in 8x68S. And rather than have me talk about it, I'll hand it to Wolfgang and he'll share with you some of the features of this rifle and other rifles that he has along and how we got into hunting. I mean, there are amazing stories. We don't have time to go through them all, but you'll be interested. Anyway, Wolfgang, yeah, please tell us about the rifle.
Oh, thank you, Mike. This is got into hunting. I grew up on a farm in Germany, and my father was in the war, never came home, but that's not the story. My uncle raised me, and we drove one day. I was about 12 or 13 years old, and we drove in his old Ford, and he said, if there is a rabbit on the right side where I was sitting, then you shoot at it. If it's on the left side, I shoot at it. And we had a 22 to shoot this rabbit with. And I had, until then, always only ever shot with a pellet gun. But I figured, I hope that rabbit shows up on my side of the car, which it did. And then I shot this rabbit, and I shot it in the head, and it jumped backwards. And I said, I missed it because I had. And he says, no, you got it. So then they made a big thing out of it. And if you, now I'm going to go into German a little bit, because in Deutschland die Jäger nennen Blut Schweiß. Und so hat mir dieses Kaninchen gegeben. Und mit das Kaninchen, ich hatte das in meinem Rucksack, und dann merkte ich, dass alles hinten nass wurde. Und da habe ich ihn gefragt, was ist denn da los? Und er meinte, da ist nur ein bisschen Schweiß. Aber in Wirklichkeit war das Blut. Und als ich dann nachher zu Hause ankam, da hat meine Mutter gesagt, wo bist du denn gewesen? Du hast ja den ganzen Rücken voll von Blut. Und da sage ich, nee, ich habe nur Schweiß hinten drauf. Und da haben sich alle kaputt gelacht über meine Dummheit, weil ich das nicht mitgekriegt habe. Jedenfalls, das war that was my first experience with hunting and shooting, and if the first shot had failed, I may have never been into hunting. But because it was a success, everybody likes a little bit of success. For me, it was great success. So then I kind of went into bird shooting, clay pigeons, and that kind of thing. But afterwards, when I was in my 20s, I was able to go to Indonesia. And in Indonesia, they had a dictatorship, but I knew a few sons of generals, and they said, come along with us, we go tiger hunting. Well, we went tiger hunting. We never shot a tiger. We only saw once a tiger, and it was in Sumatra. It was just an unbelievable experience. And then I came back here to Canada when I immigrated from Germany to Canada in the 70s, and I said, okay, I have to buy myself some guns before I immigrate to Canada. So I worked for a bank in Hamburg, and there is a company that sells, a store that sells guns. I forget the name, Hartmann and Weiss. And in my lunch hour, between 12 and 1 o'clock, I went over to Hartmann and Weiss, and I bought 2 rifles, and one 7mm and one 9.3, because I figured for Canada you need a big caliber. And then I took these 2 rifles to the bank, put them in my locker, and left them there, and nobody. And then when I came to Canada, I had them in the airplane, flew to Canada with them, and nobody minded. There was no issue, and today everything is totally different. So anyway, in the meantime, I've been collecting guns and shooting, and my gun collection is more on the aesthetics of the rifle. It is, I And I think most guns shoot actually quite straight.
Mm-hmm.
And and it depends, and whether you hit something or not, it depends a little bit on your scope and the mounting. But in order to have a nice gun to look at, which is most of the time when it's in the gun cabinet, I find that a nice piece of wood enhances the beauty of the gun, and it's nice to look at, and it shoots just as straight. Some people say wood warps a little bit with weather and so forth. I have to say I haven't experienced that, but then we're not long enough out in the wilderness, like Alaskan wilderness, or maybe here in British Columbia you go to these to the rainforest around Bella Coola. That could happen, and then you might be better off to have a fiberglass stock. But for most of the time, while the gun is in the cabinet, you can look at a nice gun, and then there's this saying, life's too short to hunt with an ugly gun. I don't know what that really means, but
I agree.
But that's part of it. So this one here, this is a brand new, for me, brand new design that I've never really seen. It's called an SR21 from Heim. And I wanted to have a rifle, a caliber that was in between the 300 Weatherby and the 338, and I was told that this caliber, which is 8 by 68S, and that was designed by RWS, a German ammunition manufacturer, in the 30s. I think it was in 1938. And they claim that this is in between, like I said, the 300 Weatherby and the 338 or the 340 Weatherby, but they say it's better than all of them. It has an advantage over each one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not here to promote a certain caliber, but we're going to go out with it, and we'll see how this performs. So that's the story about this gun. And let me say, so then we have an older Weatherby, and the caliber is hang on, what is it here?
28.
It's a 28 Nosler, and the 28 Nosler is sort of, I think, a newer version, or the updated version of the 7mm STW. And they say the same thing, that is now a little bit better. It's a non-belted cartridge and so forth. So I had a shutout barrel, and we put a brand new barrel that has a twisted outside in stainless on this former 7mm SCW. Was a Mark V Weatherby caliber, Mark V action. It also has a quite a unique mounting for the mount for the scope, and by pulling this lever up, you can take this and take the scope out really quickly. That is for transporting, and if you go into high density bush or brushes where you can't shoot long distance, you might be better off to take this off, and you just put it back in here, and then it goes click, and they claim, and I can vouch for that it goes back to zero, which is quite a nice feature that you don't find on most, and I think this mounting is made by EAW. All right, so that is that gun, and then we have a gun that has a rifle that has the caliber has fallen out of favor. It's a 264 Winchester, and this 264 Winchester was a sought-after item in the 70s, I think, or maybe a little earlier. And because it has a lot of power, it has a speed, it's just as fast, and it's basically a 7mm. And I think it's a 6.5mm. I'm not quite sure. 6.5, right? Mm-hmm. 6.5mm, and the speed is as fast as all the newer ones. 6.5 by 300. Weatherby makes one, and everybody, quite a few manufacturers make one. But when this beautiful stock came up, I figured I'll buy this Winchester in that 264. I haven't shot it, but I'm interested to find out. In a few weeks from now, we're going to go out to our hunting area and we'll sight this gun in out there. And I'm interested how this performs. It's quite heavy, and it's a nice piece of wood, and it should work. So then, Mike, I don't know what else we got here. Oh, we got this. I said to Mike, this gun has never let me down. It has never missed, which is maybe a bit arrogant, but it hasn't. And it has an octa. Is this?
It's round to octagon to round.
Round to octagon to round again, and it's made by Cooper in Montana, and they used to call this model a tech driver. In other words, you could shoot at a nail with it, and you hit it, and you drive the nail into the wall like that. Anyway, this was quite an interesting, and it has the, what is this here, Mike?
Color case hardening. Yeah.
Color case hardening.
Yeah.
And it's a bit on the heavy side. You wouldn't want to use this gun to go sheep hunting up the hills. Mm-hmm. But I shot a bear with it, and a moose with it, and elk and deer, and like I said, this gun has never let me down. And this barrel is an interesting barrel, because when we first had this octagon barrel all the way, it was so heavy that we had to take a little bit of weight off, and my gunsmith made the part that sticks out of the wood, and he made that round.
I was
that's how that came about.
Yeah, it's a beautiful touch.
But the looks, because we couldn't really make this thinner, then it wouldn't have fit in this piece of wood anymore. So we left it the way. That is fine, and it has a removable clip, like
I can hold this one if you like.
Yeah, like most of the others. So that's the story about my guns and my rifles here, and you just have to wish us luck that we also get something.
Yeah, absolutely. Which one do you prefer?
I don't know. I think this is the one that I like, but this new one here from Heim is lighter, and this caliber, apparently they use this for long distance shooting because the wind doesn't change this slightly heavier bullet around. So we've been talking about 6.5mm, 7mm, and this is an 8mm. And they say that if you zero this in at 200 yards, the bullet drops 5 inches at 350 to 400 yards. Mm-hmm. That's not any big deal.
No. And
so I would say, so you can use this gun for long distance shooting. Mm-hmm. And whereas these lighter ones, the 6.5, if you get over a certain distance, then they become, the wind might change them a little bit. I also, when I was in Africa a few years ago, I had a 300 Weatherby there, which is basically like a 7mm, I think, isn't it? Pretty close.
Close.
Yeah. And that thing was so fast. It was fantastic for most game, but one day I was shooting at an antelope and I hit this, unbeknownst to me, they decided that I must have hit some of this elephant grass because this antelope had two pieces
Interesting.
in the neck, about 8 inches apart, and that was a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
There.
You were using Sauer for that hunt?
I had a Sauer 90 with a 300 Weatherby caliber, and then I had a 416 Rigby for the bigger game. But that Sauer was fantastic.
Yeah.
But it had issues in that grass that you cannot see in your scope.
Interesting. That Rigby, was that Ruger?
That was the first. Yeah, that
With
was
John Bollinger? No.
No, we took it to Bollinger in Idaho to spruce it up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I ended up buying that right
Yeah,
now.
yeah. That was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably stole it from me.
Yeah, maybe. And what was the best shot in Africa?
The best shot in Africa was that was the best shot. They had all of a sudden, we used to drive around in the morning, and we had a whole bunch of trackers and whatever in the back of the pickup, and we were standing in the back of the pickup too, and all of a sudden the driver stopped and he said, "There's some guinea fowl," and somebody said, "Well, let's shoot the guinea fowl and see who's the best shot around here." So everybody shot and missed, and then I shot with a 300 Weatherby, this guinea fowl, and the deal was you have to shoot him in the neck.
Yep.
So the guinea fowl fell over, it was dead, I shot one, and I was declared the winner, but unbeknownst to them, the guinea fowl that I aimed at was not the one that I hit. But it sort of, so that was, actually I never told him about it, but sort of just to don't make the story look too bad, those necks were pretty close to each other.
Oh,
so,
that's good.
Anyway, that was it. Okay. So what? I don't know what else.
Did you do a lot of hunting in Germany, or before you came to Canada? Or
In
not so
Germany,
much?
yes, and now I have a friend in Germany who, after the reunification, bought his old farm back, and I've hunted there a few times, and because he has 160 acres, let's say it's about 60 hectare of farmland that is just there, not to be harvested, just to attract the wildlife for feeding. And so they shoot and he is close to hunting, except once a year he goes. He opens it up for all his friends, and they come from all over, because it's in the state of Mecklenburg, not far from the Baltic Sea, and so that is always a lot of fun. And they have about 50 hunters there, of let's say 40 hunters, and a whole bunch of beaters, and it is a very, and then there's a lot of, in the evening, being in Germany, they drink a lot of beer in the evening, and they have a lot of stories to tell. It's quite interesting. Yeah.
What do you think about these Leica scopes?
Yeah, I think they were off the market for 2 or 3 years, and usually they either didn't manufacture them. This is this year's newest model that I bought in California, and it has something that you can just push here to make this illuminated thing a little bit lighter or less light. You just push a button rather than fiddle around with it and make noise. And it has an interesting thing on the turret. If you, instead of opening this thing up, let's say you see your game a little further away, you can just move this by and it says 1 centimeter goes up or down by an inch. So let's say you have, no, is that a foot?
Probably
Okay,
an inch.
I can't see it. Anyway, you can adjust it if your game is, let's say you got this thing sighted in at 200 yards and you have your distance finder and set and it says 400 yards, you go a few clicks up or down, whichever is the case. And you're supposed to, but I haven't used this one because it's supposed to go on this 264 Winchester model that we're going to find out about how this all works this fall.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's all other places that I've hunted was in Poland. In Poland, that was just a boar hunt, and I can tell you, that was very interesting because it was shortly before the reunification of Germany and the fall of the Iron Curtain, and we went to Poland. It took us what normally takes maybe 8-9 hours. Took us a day and a half, so we got there at 10 o'clock at night, and there was a light bulb hanging off the ceiling, and this wonderful woman comes out. She'd been in Germany, her clothes were supplied by the West German hunters, so she looked like a model out of a Vogue magazine, and she comes with an axe and chops wood and puts this wood in the kitchen stove, and says, "Oh, you guys are hungry, and I'll just make you some." She rifled right through our food because they didn't have much there, and there was some eggs and bacon and whatever, and she cooked us the most fantastic meals. And that was also hunting time is usually when the mushrooms are there, and Poland has the best mushrooms, and so she threw some mushrooms into this whole thing. It was a fantastic dinner but when you think how she made that, then that was quite amazing. Anyway, so that is now this is probably very different.
Yeah, maybe.
It's been 25 or whatever years since from 1990? Yeah. And
Did you go also once to Argentina for dove hunting or something like this? I can't remember.
No, it was in Uruguay. We went there, and there was in Uruguay somebody said, "Okay, you can shoot these doves," and I don't know where they came from, but we were dove shooting, and my friend and I, my farmer friend from Minnesota, we were shooting at these doves, and they kept on coming, like by the hundreds. I've never seen anything like it before, and after an hour, I said, "You know what? I don't want to shoot here anymore because it hurts. It hurts, and you don't really. This is not a hunting experience. This is like basically target shooting at something that is not a nice experience.
Interesting.
I wouldn't go there for that because you don't know what you're shooting at. I mean, they just come by the hundreds, if not by the thousands.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And I mean, you shoot them, and I said to him, if I shoot the next time 3 in a row, I quit. And that wasn't easy because, like I said before, what you aim at is not what falls down because there's so many and so close. No, that's really not. That was, I have to say, in Brazil you can't hunt at all. Or guns and rifles are not, but Argentina is wide open.
Yeah.
You can buy guns in a grocery store.
Yeah, Argentina, thousands of millions of doves. Yeah.
But we were in Uruguay when we saw that, which is just on the other side of this Rio de la Plata river there. Unbelievable. I think the thing is 160. That river is 160 miles, 160 kilometers wide at the mouth.
Amazing.
Unbelievable.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, Wolfgang.
Well,
that's a fantastic thing. A privilege to have you here.
Well,
really.
thank you for. I don't know what I contributed to this.
You
but
absolutely did.
It's interesting.
I'm sure that people will be excited to hear your stories, and the guns are amazing. Hopefully we can have you back as a guest soon. I know there are so many more stories to tell. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care until then.